We can all agree that Wuwa is not your average gacha because the combat requires you to be heavily engaged while playing the game for majority of characters that we have so far. But if there's one character in the game that is perfectly suited for casuals or those that might have a little bit of skill issue, it's definitely Jinshi because her kit is well designed to give you absurd levels of damage even at S0 while putting in a little bit of work. However, Jinshi is mostly perceived to be limited to Hypercarry teams, but what if I told you that her Hypercarry team's overall damage is actually very close to a double DPS team comp depending on how well you've invested in your other DPS character. Here's a quick rotation showcase of what I mean. Now here's the clear time difference for a Jinshi Hypercarry team and a double DPS team with Carlotta, but I want you guys to keep in mind that Carlotta was not running her signature weapon, so the Jinshi Hypercarry team had a bit of an advantage since Jinshi was at S0 with full investment. Now, some of you guys might be asking, why the heck would I even play Jinshi double DPS if the clear times compared to Hypercarry are not that huge? Well, there are several reasons, including it's a viable team comp because of Jinshi's low field time requirement. Reason number 2 is that the other DPS characters will be the driver for coordinated attacks, helping refill Jinshi's Forte stacks while doing decent damage depending on your investment. Reason number 3 is that it's casual friendly because it doesn't involve quick swapping, which I know a lot of you guys are not comfortable with. And lastly is the perfect way to enjoy playing two of your favorite DPS characters at the same time while obliterating every content that Kuro Games throws at you in the future. For free-to-play players who have Jinshi but do not have coordinated attack characters like Yanlin and Jeji, I've got you covered. Here's a quick rotation showcase of Jinshi with Yuanwu. If you're new here on the channel, welcome to another video that belongs to the character breakdown series where I build and test your favorite resonators to give you tips and tricks on how you can use them more effectively. Keep in mind that I have a playlist for all my advanced character guides, so be sure to check them out if you're interested in a more detailed breakdown of your favorite characters, and I'll try to update them as much as I can. In today's video, I'm going to be covering the pros and cons of having Jinshi on your account, how her kit actually works, advanced tips that you can abuse, best teams and build to play her with regardless of the size of your wallet, and lastly a step-by-step breakdown of rotations that you can use in the Tower of Adversity. If this video proves helpful or enjoyable in any way, be sure to leave a like, subscribe and turn on the bell icon because it helps me out tremendously. One of her biggest advantages is being able to completely evade ground impact attacks by enemies while she's in midair. Doing so allows her to maintain her elevation, making it difficult for enemy attacks to reach you while doing basic attacks to activate the Biden Blast resonance skill. Her Unison passive ability that grants any character on the team a free intro skill is very good, especially in the first rotation of the Tower of Adversity where every character has 0 concerto energy, so it makes it easier to use the intro to regenerate some concerto energy as well as Forte stacks for characters like Jeji. But with all that said, Jinshi has some major problems. The area of effect for the Dragon Nuke Forte skill is not that large, so you'll suffer a bit when using her to clear multi-wave content. At the current state of the game, the only way to work around this is to understand enemy positioning to effectively group them together before you use your Biden Blast on them. A good example is how I intentionally focused on the cyan heron here because I know the purple one has the highest mobility, so it can easily come closer to the cyan heron as long as I'm closer to it. As soon as they came together, it became easy to unleash the Biden blasts. Jinshi is also not a character that you can play solo because she's heavily dependent on an intro skill because of the Celestial Light 5-piece Sonata effect that you can fully utilize if the equipped character uses an intro skill. She's also highly dependent on teammates that can provide coordinated attacks like Yinlin and Jeji to be able to fill her incandescent stacks or Forte stacks, to put it simply. But if you don't have those characters, you still have access to free-to-play options, which I'll cover in detail at the team building section of this video. One last thing to keep in mind for her cons is that you need at least 70% crit rate on Jinshi, and even with that amount, her Dragon Nuke skill or the Biden Blast will still not crit for most of the time, which can drive you crazy. Now that you know exactly what you're in for, if you've already pulled for Jinshi or about to pull her on your account, let's cover how her kit actually works. She's by far the easiest character in the game, even though her Forte description looks like a 4-page paragraph. If you press her basic attacks 4 times, an enhanced skill will be available to you. Pressing that enhanced skill makes her enter the incarnation state when Jinshi grows horns, as you can see right here. Doing another 4 basic attacks while in her incarnation state will let the Biden Blast or the Dragon Nuke Forte skill be available to you, which you can use to send the enemy to the afterlife, considered as resonance skill damage. After the Biden Blast, Jinshi will gain Unison, which you can't really see anywhere on Jinshi's health bar like her weapon buffs or anywhere on her character model. Basically, what Unison does is that it allows Jinshi to gain a free intro skill. It has a 25 seconds cooldown, so in case you restart your tower run and you don't get the outro after the Dragon Nuke, it's because of that 25 seconds cooldown. Remember when I said you need 4 basic attacks and a skill press to enter the incarnation state? Well, the basic attacks will be useless about 70% of the time because an intro skill will make the enhanced skill easily available, and pressing your skill button will easily activate the incarnation state. The Dragon Nuke or Biden Blast main source of damage comes from how many Forte stacks she has, and you can fill higher amount by dealing damage with coordinated attacks, which is why characters like Jeji and Yinlin are very popular in Jinshi teams. But what if I told you that in terms of Forte stacks regeneration speed, Yuanwu actually competes with Yinlin and Jeji? I tested how much stacks she can regenerate with Yuanwu, Jeji, and Yinlin. For Jeji, the stacks regenerated per 1 basic attack, while Jeji's coordinated attack was active, is exactly 3 stacks, as you can see right here. For Yinlin, the stacks regenerated per 1 basic attack while punishment mark was on the enemy, which is a fancy way of saying Yinlin's coordinated attacks is exactly 3.5 stacks. If you watch closely, I had exactly 8 stacks when I swapped to Jinshi, but after the basic attack, we now have 11.5 stacks, which means that Yinlin can regenerate 3.5 stacks per 1 coordinated attack hit. For Yuanwu, after switching to Jinshi, I had 1 Forte stack, but after doing 1 basic attack with Jinshi, it regenerated 3 additional Forte stacks, as you can see right here. So if you're free to play, Yuanwu has you covered as long as you know exactly how to maintain the Thunder Wedge for a long period of time, which I will explain in detail at the rotation section of this video. Now let's cover her advanced tips. The first one is that while you're in her incarnation state, even though the 4th basic attack triggers the Dragon Nuke skill, you don't have to wait for the animation to be completed. As soon as the 4th basic attack animation begins, press your resonance skill to use the Biden Blast on the enemy. Tip number 2. The skill press that activates your incarnation state after an intro skill or 4th basic attack in your normal state takes way too long to finish. So as soon as the skill animation begins, just dash or use a grapple, because while spamming your basic attacks after a grapple, Jinshi will continue to stay up in the air, which prevents you from taking damage from all types of enemies. So Jinshi's comfort of playstyle is too good that it becomes boring sometimes. Now let's get into her build. For the weapon options, I recommend getting the Aegis of Harvest, but if you don't have that, go with the Verdant Summit as a second best option. If you don't have that as well, go with the Lustrous Razor, which you can get from the standard weapon selector, and your free-to-play option is the Broadblade 41 because you can easily maintain the 24% attack buff at Refinement Rank 5 if you use the grapple tech I mentioned previously, which lets you keep Jinhsi's health above 80%. Best in slot echo sets should be the Celestial Light and not the Eternal Radiance because Jinshi cannot use Spectral Frazzle. Jue will be your 4-cost echo, and for the stats, go with crit rate or crit damage on the 4-cost depending on what you're lacking, and for the 3-cost if you're running her signature weapon, go with attack percentage and spectral damage bonus, but if you don't have a signature weapon, go with double spectral damage bonus, and for the 1-cost is going to be obviously attack. For the team building options, if you're free to play, use the 5-piece Rejuvenating Glow on Yuanwu and give him the Original Type 4 Gauntlet. Congratulations, you just turned Unk into a healer. The sub DPS options should be Taochi or Lumi with at least 160 energy regen. Both of these characters suffer from concerto energy regeneration issues, and their outro buff uptime is more than enough for Jinshi, so you can't go wrong with any of them. However, they need the Discord Broadblade to decrease their field time since they suck at regenerating concerto energy. But if you have Yanlin or Jeji, feel free to use them. For the double DPS team comp, I recommend Yanlin, Zhangli Yao, and Jinshi. Another team comp that you can use is Jeji, Carlotta, and Jinshi, and the last team comp that I recommend is Mortefi, Jian, and Jinshi. Now let's get into the rotations breakdown. Let's begin with the Hypercarry team. For the healer choice, I'll be using Verena because she pairs well with Jeji for double intro skills, and she's much accessible to most players compared to Shorekeeper. Here's a simple graphical representation of what you need to do. We first begin with Verena's Liberation, and then use her skill. Here I took advantage of Inferno Rider's attack to gain an additional Forte stack. Swap to Jeji and use her Liberation. Jinshi has a very low on-field time, so she does not recover a lot of resonance energy, so always use Jeji's Liberation as soon as it's available to you to help with resonance energy recovery. Now swap to Jinshi and do 4 basic attacks. Here I took advantage of the dodge counter to instantly get an enhanced resonance skill or Forte skill, so it's pretty much the same thing. Use her skill, grapple, echo skill, and do 4 basic attacks. Always make sure to use Jinshi's Liberation before you use her Dragon Nuke skill for a decent recovery of resonance energy. Use the Biden Blast or Dragon Nuke right after the Liberation. Now you have a free intro skill from the Unison passive, so intro with Jeji. Swap to Verena, do full basic attacks, and use her skill, which should fully fill her concerto energy. Echo skill and intro with Jeji, who should now have full Forte stacks. Press her skill, basic attack, and then teleport 3 times. After each teleport where the red aura appears on Jeji, be sure to add in some dash cancels to make the rotation a bit more faster. Now intro with Jinshi, skill, cancel the animation by using your grapple, do 4 basic attacks, echo skill, and then send the enemy to the afterlife with her Dragon Nuke skill. Now intro with Jeji and repeat the process once again. Now let's cover the free-to-play team option. I'll be using Taochi as the sub DPS and the driver to proc coordinated attacks from Yuanwu because she is the most accessible to many players, but if you want to use Lumi, check out my dedicated sub DPS rotations guide for her on the channel. Here's a simple graphical representation of what you need to do. We first begin with Yuanwu's skill and wait for Ghost Rider, Inferno Rider to come down from there. The reason why we don't use any of our character's abilities here is that doing so will not recover any resonance energy while Inferno Rider is in that animation. Swap to Jinshi, do 4 basic attacks and a skill press to enter the incarnation state. But as you can see here, I used a dodge counter which pretty much did the same thing. Use her grapple, echo skill, do 4 basic attacks, and use her liberation. Always use her liberation first before the Dragon Nuke skill for proper resonance energy regeneration. Now intro with Taochi and finish her timed counters. Here I was interrupted, so just use a dodge counter and swap to Yuanwu to do basic attacks. Use a skill and echo skill. Swap to Taochi, liberation, and do some basic attacks to proc the coordinated attacks. Use her skill, echo skill, and intro with Jinshi. Press her skill and grapple. Here, I should have just waited for about a second to activate the echo skill, so this is an error on my part. Do basic attacks and unleash her dragon nuke. Intro with Tao Chi and repeat the whole process once again. Keep in mind that due to the echo skill cooldowns for all the characters in the team, you need to switch back and forth between Tao Chi and Yuanwu twice in the subsequent rotations, as you can see here in this showcase. And while doing so, be sure to always use Wenwu's skill to maintain the coordinated attacks uptime. Now with the double DPS team comp, here's what you need to do. I'll be using Jeji, Carlotta and Jinshi team. Here's a simple graphical representation of what you need to do. We first start by using Jeji's Liberation. Swap to Carlotta and press her skill twice, but swap to Jinshi before she takes off. Do 4 basic attacks, skill, grapple, echo skill. Do 4 basic attacks, but use her Liberation before you use her Dragon Nuke Forte skill. Now intro with Jeji and fully fill her Forte stacks. Use her skill, basic attack and teleport 3 times. You can add in some dash cancels here if you want to speed up the rotation. Intro with Carlotta, press her skill twice, but keep holding your basic attack to use her Forte skill as soon as she lands on the ground. The echo skill usage here is optional since you don't really need it to activate the buff that the echo provides. Use her Liberation and keep pressing your basic attacks until her skill becomes available to you. Once her skill is available, use it to freeze the enemy and then proceed to use her Fatal Finale. Use a heavy attack to generate multiple crystals, skill, echo skill, intro with Jinshi, skill, echo skill, grapple. Do full basic attacks and unleash the Dragon Nuke Forte skill. Now intro with Jeji and repeat the whole process once again. Even the crazy damage numbers that you've been seeing in this video is not really Jinshi's true damage potential because we currently do not have a dedicated buffer for the spectral element. And having Jinshi guarantees that you can clear almost every content that Kuro Games throws at you in the future. Hope this video was helpful and be sure to leave a like and subscribe to help support the channel. Our Discord link will be in the video description, so be sure to check it out if you have any issues with the game or you just want a place to chill or hang out. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.